Hello and welcome to Module 8 of Part 1 of the Cōnsilium Aquīs Sulis course on ETCS. This module describes the components of ETCS movement authorities: sections, limits and ends of authority, danger points and overlaps, supervised locations, release speeds, speed and gradient profiles, linking information and mode profiles. All ETCS movement authorities, MAs, consist of one or more sections of defined length. The first section starts at the Belize group associated with the MA, the signal Belize group that issued it in ETCS Level 1. The last relevant Belize group, LRBG, specified in an MA message from the RBC in Level 2. MA sections can be configured to time out such that the MA becomes invalid if a train remains in a specific part of a section more than a specific time. The last and often only section of an MA is known as the end section. The end of an MA's end section, the location to which it authorises the train to proceed, is either a limit of authority, LOA, or an end of authority, EOA. If the target speed at the end of the MA is 0 km per hour, for example at a red signal, it is known as an EOA. If target speed greater than 0 km per hour, for example at a signal that can be passed up to a specific speed, it is known as an LOA. This target speed can be configured to time out, such that the LOA reverts to becoming an EOA. It is often desirable to allow a train to reach or even pass an EOA, whether for operational reasons or to read a signal Belize group in ETCS Level 1. To enable this, a danger point DP can be defined beyond the EOA, representing the location beyond which it is unsafe for the train to proceed. An overlap, OL, which expires after the train has been within a specific distance of the EOA for a specific time, may also be defined. OLs and DPs are generally located in an overlap track section. It is important to distinguish between this track section and the OL. If the MA has an EOA, the ETCS onboard unit defines a supervised location, SVL, the location that it will prevent the train passing. The SVL is defined at the overlap, if any, and before timeout. Otherwise at the danger point, if any. Otherwise at the EOA. Owing to the conservative nature of ETCS supervision, it will tend to bring the train to a standstill well on the approach to the SVL. By placing a DP or OL, and hence SVL, beyond the EOA, the train can be permitted to closely approach or even pass that EOA. By contrast, without a DP or OL, the SVL is at the EOA, and so the train is brought to a standstill well on the approach to that EOA. A release speed can be defined for a danger point and/or overlap. When permitted speed on the approach to an EOA reaches the release speed, ETCS switches from target speed supervision to release speed supervision. Release speed supervision is similar to ceiling speed supervision in that ETCS applies brakes if the permitted speed, the release speed, is exceeded. Unlike ceiling speed supervision, there is no distinction between permitted, indicated, warning and intervention speeds. A train can pass an EOA in release speed supervision, enabling it to read a signal Belize group in ETCS Level 1. However, ETCS brings the train to a standstill by cutting traction power and applying brakes if the train's minimum safe Belize antenna position passes the EOA in ETCS Level 1, or the train's minimum safe front end passes the EOA in ETCS Level 2. The release speed can be either specified explicitly or calculated by the onboard unit, such that the train will stop before the SVL after such an intervention. MAs are usually issued with a static speed profile, describing the maximum permitted speed along their length. Different profiles can apply to different train types. Axle load speed profiles may also be sent, detailing speed restrictions applicable to trains with a specific axle load category or greater. Temporary speed restrictions may be sent with or independently of MAs. ETCS Level 1 MAs additionally include signalling-related speed restrictions. Signalling-related speed restrictions, like LOAs, are applicable to speed signalling systems where signal aspects indicate specific speed limits. Speed restrictions may also be calculated to ensure trains can stop within a permitted braking distance. Gradient profiles are used in braking calculations for target speed supervision. Gradient profiles approximate the true vertical profile of track as a series of fixed gradient sections. Braking parameters need to reflect any error that might result from this approximation. The locations of speed and gradient changes are expressed as distances from the MA's LRBG. Speed and gradient profiles can also be indicated to the driver as part of cab signalling information. If the profiles do not cover the full length of the train, as is common with a first MA, this is indicated to the driver. MAs are also usually issued with Belize group linking information, expressed as distances from the MA's LRBG. Linking information is used to reset location confidence interval as a train travels through an MA. Linked Belize groups are typically provided on the approach to EOAs and significant changes in permissible speed to avoid overly restrictive supervision. The default mode of an ETCS MA is full supervision FS. Onboard units in FS mode provide rollaway protection, reverse movement protection, and supervise the maximum speed permitted for the train, speed and distance in accordance with the information contained in the MA and temporary speed restrictions. An FSMA contains sufficient information to safely supervise train speed to stop short of any obstruction and prevent overspeed. Driving to cab signalling is only possible in FS mode. Similarly, in newer versions of ETCS, trains can only transition to automatic driving mode, the mode of automatic train operation, from FS. Mode profiles can instruct an ETCS onboard unit to transition into on-site, limited supervision or shunting mode. On-site mode is used for track potentially occupied by another vehicle. Limited supervision mode is used where ETCS supervision is incomplete and typically targeted at high-risk locations. Shunting mode is used for infrastructure outside the direct control of the ETCS-based signalling system. Onboard units in on-site, limited supervision and shunting modes provide rollaway protection and supervise the maximum speed permitted for the train, configurable mode speed limits, and temporary speed restrictions. Onboard units in on-site and limited supervision modes also continue to supervise speed in accordance with the MA and provide reverse movement protection. Once in shunting mode, onboard units cease to supervise MAs and do not provide reverse movement protection, allowing trains to shunt in both directions. On-site and limited supervision mode profiles define the start and length of an on-site or limited supervision area and acknowledgement window in terms of the MA's LRBG. Shunting mode profiles define the start of an shunting area and acknowledgement window. Drivers are required to acknowledge transitions to on-site, limited supervision or shunting mode, as they entail a reduction in ETCS supervision. Drivers can acknowledge the transition when the train is within the acknowledgement window with speed below the mode speed limit. If a driver fails to acknowledge before or within 5 seconds of passing the transition border, then the onboard unit applies service brake. The transition occurs when the driver acknowledges the new mode. In summary, all movement authorities have either a limit of authority, LOA, where target speed greater than 0 km per hour, or an end of authority, EOA, where target speed equals 0 km per hour. Where target speed equals 0 km per hour, ETCS defines an supervised location, SVL, at either the overlap, danger point, or EOA. Trains can closely approach and pass an EOA by means of a release speed when an overlap and/or danger point is configured. Movement authorities are usually sent with speed and gradient profile and linking information. They may also be sent with mode profiles instructing ETCS onboard units to transition to on-site, limited supervision or shunting mode. EOAs, danger points, overlaps, linking and profile information are all expressed in terms of distances from a last relevant Belize group.